Hi everyone, my name is Yue Bizenjima-Chrea from Simon Fraser University, and my sincere apologies. Today I will be presenting through this recorded presentation. I truly wish I could be there in person, but I recently underwent a medical procedure that prevents me from flying for the next couple of weeks. I would also like to extend my special thanks to my colleagues at Simon Fraser University, Dr. Hisenbai, Malvo Garris, Sheila Avisa, Maria Valio, and Eduardo Azmita, who are kindly assisting by playing this video on my behalf today. Thank you. And another sincere gratitude to Dr. Anouk Zumond for allowing me to participate in this conference in this special capacity. Before I begin, I would like to invite you into a very brief grounding moment. I invite you all to gently close your eyes or soften gaze, relax your shoulders, and bring yourselves into a long, deep breathing. Neck extended, top of your head almost pulled by a thin string. Inhaling and exhaling. This is simply to help us settle into this space and gently meditate into a peaceful, grounding mind. Sending my warm greetings and gratitude to all of you gathered. Although I am not able to be there with you in person today, I am truly grateful that this recording can still travel across to join you in this room. Perhaps some of you slept in this morning because of jet lag. Perhaps some woke up too early being hungry. Perhaps some of you navigated your way through Metro 51 with a bit of confusion before arriving here. However each of you came, there is something quietly miraculous about you all are now together in this space. Just as each of our lives is itself a miracle, let us take a brief moment to appreciate this beautiful serendipity of gathering. As your next inhale, let's imagine we're stepping into a doorway. As you exhale, let's imagine we're not yet inside and not outside. Just here, just in between. Recently, I had the opportunity to spend an extended period of time, as I mentioned, back in Japan for my medical procedure. During this time, I noticed something subtle yet profound in the Japanese innate architectural logistics, which I had never consciously reflected on while growing up there. Regardless of size or location, most Japanese homes include a distinct and dedicated entry space. Traditionally called as genkan or doma, this threshold functions as a transitional space between outside and inside. It is neither fully exterior or interior, but a liminal space that mediates passage. Architecturally, it is often distinguished by a slight elevation from the exterior ground level. Functionally speaking, it invites a pause, the removal of shoes, dusting off one's shoulders before one step into the living space. This feature slightly contrasts with many recent build Canadian dwellings where I currently reside. The design tends to prioritize efficiency and open concept functionality. In such homes, the front door frequently opens directly into a kitchen, just like my house, or a living area with little spatial or symbolic separation between entry and habitation. In this, I reflected on the ma, which is beautifully illustrated by Dr. Hisenbai and Dr. Avi Cohen in their article, The Ma of Education. In this, one of their many phenomenal works, they gently remind us that education is fundamentally a relational and embodied process of transformation. This transformation unfolds within Ma, the dynamic, attuned in-between space where perceptions, presence, and ethical responsiveness allow meaningful learning and human flourishing to emerge. Japanese word ma can be translated as the living in-between, a relational space of pause, presence, and logistical attunement from which meaning and responsiveness arise. The concept of ma appears across many other Japanese disciplines that are so-called do, such as sado, way of tea, kado, way of flowers, kendo, way of swords, and judo, way of gentleness, martial arts. Ma refers to the meaningful space, pause, or interval that creates the appropriate opening for transition into the next movement. In martial arts, this is expressed through kamae, the attentive stance that gathered body and mind before taking your body into action. In sado, way of tea, it appears in the cultivated silence as heated water is poured into the tea bowl. In fact, the same character appears in the Japanese word for human being, Ningen. A human being is, so quite literally, a person with ma. The word ma, character, and ningen, gen, is the same character. A being constituted in relational space. Does this mean that to be human is to exist in between, in interval, in gifted pause, in the capacity to hold, contemplate, give attunement, breathe deep, and prepare for what to come in the next logistics, in the next passage we are passing on? This contemplative point resonates deeply with my upbringing in Buddhist teachings, particularly the concept of mu. It is often translated as emptiness, but emptiness here does not signify absence, but relational openness, an ontological flux in which no rigid boundary separates self and other. We are not merely located in space, we are participating in its unfolding, inner and outer, self and world, or no self and world, and the intervals between them are inseparable. Here I would also like to relatedly mention the Japanese philosopher Tetsuro Watsuji. In his work Ethics as the Study of Human Being, in 1961, he writes that human beings are not merely between persons, but are relational beings in which self, other, and society came into being together. Watsuji explicitly argues that the very existence of human being is fundamentally relational. Ma then offers a cultivated pause, a form of kamae or embodied preparedness before moving into the next act or next decision within that relation. With this, I further reflected on education as the cultivation of ma. Not to give further Japanese language lessons, but to introduce one more nuance here. In Japanese, there are two distinct terms related to education: kyōiku and kyōyō. I always struggle to find a direct English translation equivalent for the latter, kyōyō. It actually refers to education as the cultivation of the whole human being. More precisely speaking, kyōiku is closer translation to the English word education we use. With an intentional structured teaching and training, the guided transmission of knowledge, skills, and competencies towards socially recognized goals, often institutional, evaluative, and future skill acquisition oriented, such as math, science, basic readings and writings, which is also very, very important. Kyōyō word, kyōyō, carries a nuance of cultivated way of being, a holistic being, a slowly formed sensibility, ethical posture, values, relational intelligence that emerges through lived experiences, processes, the arts, contemplation, and sustained attentiveness to the surrounding world. When one says in Japanese that a person is educated, あの人は教養がある. It does not simply indicate the possession of advanced degrees or certification. Rather, it gestures towards something broader, more holistic understanding of what it means to be educated as a human being, including morality, ethics, mannerisms, kindness, and considerations to others and surroundings. Just as an example of curriculum to kyōyō, there is a Dotoku ethics class held once a week in Japan since grade 1. In these classes, teachers present a contemplative inquiry. It's called hatsumon, not shitsumon, which is the usual question. This is an inquiry, which does not presuppose a single correct answer, but rather invites reflective engagement and contemplation in learners for particular themes. Students are prompted to think deeply and carefully about a particular theme. The topic for each week's inquiry is drawn from a designated moral and ethic education textbooks catered to each grade. Although the term Dotoku originally derived from Taoism and Confucianism traditions, Japanese Dotoku has evolved through historical and cultural transformation since the modern period. In its contemporary form, it reflects a nuanced moral educational approach that can be understood as part of kyōyō, the broader cultivation of us human being. There may indeed be critiques regarding this rigidity of such a system of ethics and moral education. Yet, I do find myself wondering whether Dotoku education has quietly cultivated an underlying disposition that invites individuals or myself to pause and contemplate before acting or creating movements, and tendency for a careful attunement toward one's conduct and decisions in relation to others. And this is something I further would like to investigate in my academic journey. Globally, the number of people obtaining formal degrees and so-called certificates in education continues to rise. Yet, when we speak of increasing educational attainment worldwide, I wonder whether the kyōyō dimension is growing alongside of it. Within an increasingly capitalistic, efficiency and competition-driven paradigm, Even in cultures like Japan that historically emphasized Kyōyō education, now appears to weigh heavily towards skill acquisition, credentializing, measurable economic outcomes, particularly ones in secondary and post-secondary level education. In a world shaped by neo-being, especially, and artificial intelligence, perhaps the cultivation of being human itself warrants renewed attention in education. Philosophical inquiry and contemplation do not always yield clear or empirical answers in the manner that artificial intelligence clearly does. And let's be honest, philosophy has often been dismissed from its impression of impracticality. Conversations such as, "Are you measured in philosophy?" "Oh, good luck with acquiring a job in ancient Greece," isn't uncommon yet to this day. I must argue that the philosophical contemplation creates a space of ma, a deliberate pause between tasks, decisions, messages, leadership responsibilities, and the logistics of daily life. It allows us to pause as human beings within ma, to turn inward and examine relationships between self and others in the flow, between the flow of movement, between the flow of environment, between the flow of contemplation. In undertaking this reflection, it is important to clarify why I have felt a compelling urgency to examine and articulate this particular theme. Though I am no ancient Greek philosopher, this inquiry emerges from daily correspondences and lived experiences in the contemporary Western world, both in ordinary life and within professional context. Especially in this society that increasingly emphasizes globalization, diversity, and pluralism, I have often sensed that the concept of ma that Dr. Bai and Dr. Cohen note that can be cultivated by our philosophical education may offer a beneficial reorientation to the flow of work, social interaction, and logistical coordination with care that structures everyday life. The tempo of modern institutional and societal system frequently privileges speed, functional yet seemingly myopic efficiency, immediacy, and productivity, yet within such accelerated rhythms, the deliberate cultivation of interval and mindful pause in movement of flow may serve as a counterbalancing force. I work in post-secondary finance. I am also a mother, a yoga teacher, a children's book author, illustrator, a language educator, and a land ecologist. Across all these roles, what guides my decision-making, communication with people and surroundings, and contemplation of logistical passage is not merely technical knowledge or my skills, but my philosophical groundings, an awareness not only of where I stand, but of where my energy and actions flow after the space of ma I pass through. In the Buddhist philosophy in which I was raised, this grounding was referred to as shinri, truth, or shingon, true voice. It does not belong only to ancient Greece. It informs my financial decisions, human resource decisions, parental decisions, and even the sequencing of my yoga flow in my class. And speaking of Greece, the Greek word oikos, of course, means home. Etymologically, it derives the word ecology and economy. Each of us exists within and as a part of ecology and economy. at the personal, community, and organizational levels. We participate in ongoing flows of thoughts, decision-making, and action. Within this movement, philosophical contemplation can offer the pause, ma, through which we become fully human. We're all guests of this loving home, Mother Earth. Having been welcomed, is it truly our nature to enter without pause or reverence? To enter as a guest requires humility. Going back to my entryway metaphor, we remind ourselves to respectfully take off our shoes, gently moving them slightly backwards to the sides so that others may also remove their footwear smoothly, so that we ourselves may leave the premises with ease. Just speaking metaphorically here. Lastly, please allow me to share this rather personal and philosophical reflection as my final offerings. As already mentioned, I have recently undergone multiple medical examinations, both in Canada and in Japan. What stood out to me was not only the medical systems themselves, but also how Ma was, or was not, seemingly held within relational and logistical contexts shaped by different cultures. While receiving medical procedures and care in 2 different countries, I experienced this difference quite profoundly. Again, just as in Dotoku class, I do not wish to claim what is correct and what is not here. Yet the experience prompted a deeper reflection. Passing with care. Passing a medical note with care, so I do not become a broken record. Passing my daily work tasks with care, so students and my colleagues do not suffer from my absence. Passing food into me with care, with gratitude for life-giving life, providing the fire that ignites and warms me. Passing items and surroundings with care, so they may be cherished and enjoyed by the next person I have not yet to meet. Being human, being in between, being in Ma, with kind foresight, with kind attunement, with kind care. Handling as relation, movement as shared flow. With that, I wish to pass this earth with care to those who follow. And as I pass my life, this borrowed gifted life, gently and sustainably. Your light shines the light in me with sincere gratitude. Thank you and namaste.